Olivia always believed that childhood friendships were the safest kind of love. When she was 8, she met Ethan, the new boy next door with messy brown hair and a shy smile. On the first day he arrived, he sat alone on the sidewalk hugging his backpack like it held his whole world. Olivia walked up, placed her little hand on his back, and simply said, "You can sit with me." That was how everything began. From that day, the two were rarely seen apart. They built forts from old bedsheets and wrote secret codes only they could understand. When Olivia scraped her knee climbing a fence, Ethan ran faster than he ever had to find help. When Ethan's dog passed away, Olivia slept on the floor of his room because he was scared to cry alone. They weren't dramatic or exaggerated, they were just two kids who unknowingly stitched their hearts together. Life was simple then: school, bike rides, ice cream, and promises whispered under the tall maple tree in front of their houses. One of those promises was made on Olivia's 16th birthday. The two sat on the rooftop, legs dangling over the edge, staring at a sky overflowing with stars. "Even if everything changes," she said, voice trembling with the fear of the unknown future, "we won't leave each other behind, right?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Never. You're the only thing I'm sure about." She didn't tell him that her heart beat faster when he said that. She didn't tell him she had already fallen in love with her best friend. She just smiled, letting the night breeze hide everything she was scared to confess. But life isn't a fairy tale. It doesn't listen to promises made under starlight. The accident happened 3 months later. Olivia's mother, who always sang while cooking, who smelled like jasmine and sunshine, who hugged too tight and laughed too loudly, was gone in a single moment. A car crash. No warning. No goodbye. At the funeral, Ethan held Olivia's trembling hands as she stared blankly at the coffin. She didn't cry because the pain was too big for tears. But her silence terrified him more than any scream could. Just days after the burial, her father announced they were moving away, to a different city, a different state, anywhere that didn't remind him of his wife. Olivia couldn't fight him. She was too broken to argue. The night before she left, Ethan climbed to her window like he always did. He hugged her so tightly that she could barely breathe. "You can't leave me," he whispered, his voice cracking for the first time. "I don't know who I am without you." Her lips parted, wanting to say the words she had swallowed for years, "I love you too," but her grief stole her courage. She choked back everything inside her and said the smallest, weakest thing. "I'll come back." Ethan brushed his thumb against her cheek, wiping a tear she didn't realize had fallen. "Promise me," he begged. "I promise," she whispered, and wished promises were stronger than fate. She left the next morning before sunrise. She stared out the car window, desperate to see Ethan one last time. But his curtains were closed. His window dark. She pressed her palm to the cold glass and silently apologized. She didn't know Ethan had been awake all night, sitting on the floor with her forgotten hair clip clutched to his chest, waiting for a goodbye that never came. Distance became a quiet thief. Calls reduced to texts. Texts reduced to occasional messages. Then silence arrived, heavy and unavoidable. They were still breathing, still living, but the thread between them grew thin and strained until it snapped without either of them noticing the exact moment it happened. Years passed. Olivia learned to smile again, though the smile never quite reached her eyes. She buried pieces of herself so deep, she wasn't sure she remembered who she used to be. She studied, worked, survived, but something inside her remained unfinished. When she got a job offer in the very city she once called home, she hesitated. But something, a silent ache, a longing she never admitted, pulled her back. Her first day at the new company felt like walking into a memory she had outgrown. She kept her gaze low, clutching paperwork, reminding herself she was here to rebuild her life, not revisit the ruins of what she once lost. Then she heard his voice. It wasn't loud. It wasn't excited. It was just familiar. A sound she thought she had forgotten but recognized instantly, like a song from a past life. She turned. Ethan. He was taller now, broader shoulders, sharper jawline, but those warm brown eyes were the same. The eyes that once knew every secret she never said out loud. For a moment, the world didn't exist, only their eyes, meeting somewhere between heartbreak and disbelief. "Olivia," he breathed, almost scared to trust his sight. She nodded, unable to speak past the storm in her chest. He stepped closer, a slow hesitant movement, as if he feared she might disappear like a dream. You're here. I can't believe it. After all these years. She wanted to run into his arms. She wanted to tell him she missed him every single day. But years of distance had built walls stronger than memories. Before she could find her voice, someone joined them. A woman, beautiful, confident, eyes full of warmth, slipped her fingers into Ethan's hand. Oh, you must be Olivia, she said cheerfully. Ethan told me so much about you. I'm Mia, his fiancée. The word cracked something deep inside Olivia. She stood still, forcing her heart not to break loudly in front of them. Ethan's hand fell away slowly from Mia's, like he was torn in two directions. Olivia smiled, a polite, practiced smile, wishing a smile could hide the way her soul shattered. It's nice to meet you, she whispered. Inside, a silent scream echoed. I shouldn't have come back. Olivia stood in the office lobby, the weight of her past pressing down on her lungs. Ethan introduced her to a few colleagues, his voice steady, but his eyes kept flickering toward her like he was afraid she might vanish again. Mia chatted happily beside him, unaware of the tremor running beneath the surface of every exchanged glance. When Olivia settled at her new desk, the room felt unfamiliar yet filled with too many memories. She tried to focus on her monitor, but her mind was a storm, flashes of bike rides, rooftop promises, and a boy who once held her broken heart together. Hours dragged, and she avoided looking in Ethan's direction. But Ethan, he kept finding excuses to pass by her desk, dropping casual comments that sounded too careful. At lunchtime, Mia invited her kindly to join their group. Olivia nodded, refusing would raise questions she wasn't ready to answer. The cafe was warm and buzzing with light conversation, but all Olivia felt was the overwhelming fear of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Mia looped her arm around Ethan's as she spoke. Olivia tried to keep her expression neutral, but jealousy scratched at her ribs, raw and painful. She used to imagine what it would feel like to hold Ethan's hand as his partner, not as his childhood friend who left without a proper goodbye. So, Mia asked, how long have you two known each other? Olivia swallowed. Since we were kids. We lived next door. Mia smiled. That's adorable. Ethan rarely talks about the past. I didn't know he had someone so special back then. Ethan's fingers tightened slightly around his fork. Some memories are difficult to explain, he murmured, his eyes locked onto Olivia for a second too long. Olivia nodded, forcing a smile. And some memories are better left where they belong. His jaw clenched, a tiny reaction, but loud enough for her to notice. Mia didn't catch it, but Olivia did. After lunch, Ethan walked her to the elevator, silence stretching between them like a wound that never healed. You could have told me, she finally whispered as the doors slid shut. Told you what? He asked, though he knew exactly what she meant. That you got engaged. He looked away, guilt tightening his shoulders. You left, Olivia. You stopped replying. I didn't think I had the right to tell you anything. His words hit her harder than she expected. She took a shaky breath. I didn't choose to leave you. My whole world fell apart. And mine didn't. Ethan's voice cracked, quiet but sharp. I waited for you. Every day. I checked my phone like a fool. I stared at that damn window every night hoping you would come back. Her throat tightened. I'm sorry. He let out a bitter laugh. I'm sorry too. But sorry doesn't fix years of silence. The elevator opened. They stepped out, but something between them stayed trapped inside, beating desperately behind the metal doors. Over the next week, they tried to be normal coworkers, smiling in meetings, exchanging polite words, pretending their hearts weren't bleeding. But normal was impossible. One rainy evening, everyone else had left the office. Olivia stayed behind finalizing a report. Ethan was still there too, leaning against the window with his phone pressed against his forehead, looking exhausted. Olivia tried to ignore him, but after minutes of heavy silence, he spoke without looking up. I still think about that night, he confessed. Olivia stopped typing. Which night? The night before you left. When I held you like the world was ending. His voice was slow, careful. I waited for you to say something. Anything that could have told me you wanted to stay. Tears blurred her sight. I wanted to stay more than anything. Then why didn't you? He finally looked at her, his eyes filled with years of unspoken pain. Because I lost the most important person in my life, she whispered, voice cracking, and I didn't want to lose you too. I pushed everything away that reminded me of her. Even you. Especially you. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low and aching. You were the most important person in my life too, Liv. The name, the one only he used, hit her like a forgotten heartbeat. She wiped her tears quickly, not wanting him to see how broken she still was. But now you have Mia. And she deserves all of you, not someone half living in the past. Ethan closed his eyes, like hearing the truth hurt more than pretending. I don't know how to choose, he confessed, voice trembling. I love Mia, but with you, it's different. You know parts of me no one else does. You were my first everything. He shook his head helplessly. But I can't destroy someone who has loved me for years just because the past decided to return. Olivia stepped back, forcing strength she didn't feel. I'm not asking you to choose me, she said, though her heart wished otherwise. I just needed you to understand why I disappeared. The rain outside hammered the windows, loud, relentless, like the tears she refused to let fall. Ethan nodded slowly, accepting her words, but not the pain that came with them. Olivia grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she whispered, I came back hoping we could find our way again, but maybe some roads aren't meant to be walked twice. She didn't wait for his reply. She just left, because staying would only tear open wounds that never healed. Outside, she stood under the downpour, letting the rain hide her heartbreak. Inside, Ethan watched her go, fists clenched, heart heavy, feeling like he was losing her. All over again, but this time, losing her was entirely his fault. Olivia tried to rebuild the boundaries she had spent years constructing, walls that kept her heart safe from memories, from longing, from Ethan. But every morning he was there in the same office, the same meetings, the same hallways, every moment a painful reminder of what she once had and could never fully let go of. Mia, on the other hand, was sunshine, kind, generous, genuinely happy that Olivia was back in Ethan's life. She invited Olivia into her circle without hesitation, unaware of the silent war happening right beside her. And that made everything worse. How could Olivia let herself interfere with a love that was so pure on the surface? Despite Olivia's attempts to stay quietly in the background, life had a way of throwing them together. Late-night project deadlines turned into shared coffees. Quick conversations at the printer stretched into long talks about everything they had missed in each other's lives. Ethan told her about his architecture dreams, how he once traveled to France just to see a cathedral he'd adored since childhood. Olivia told him about her mother, finally letting the words out instead of burying them where they festered. One night, as the office emptied again, Ethan sat beside her, closer than he should have. You disappeared, he said quietly, staring at the floor. But I think I disappeared too, in a different way. What do you mean? She asked, though her heart already understood. I stopped chasing the life I wanted. I stopped chasing you. His voice dropped lower. I settled for safety instead of love. And now I don't know how to live with that choice. Olivia's breath hitched. She knew how deadly honesty could be in moments like this. She knew what fragile lines love could cross. She wanted to tell him she still loved him. That she never stopped. But Mia's name echoed in her conscience like a warning. You made a life here, she said, choking on each word. And she is part of it. Maybe the most important part. Ethan looked like she had punched him, because she was right, and that truth burned. Before either of them could speak again, Ethan's phone lit up, Mia calling. A reminder of reality's grip. He answered. His tone softened instantly. He told Mia he was finishing work and would drive her home after dinner with her parents. The conversation ended with laughter, the laughter of a couple deeply connected. Olivia watched the shift in him, how he changed when Mia was involved, and the message pierced her heart clearly. She was the past. Mia was the present. Later that week, Ethan's father fell seriously ill. A sudden heart condition forced him into surgery. Ethan, who always pretended to be strong, broke the moment he stepped out of the hospital room. Olivia found him in the waiting area, head buried in his hands, shoulders shaking. Mia wasn't there, she was out of town for a work event. Without thinking, Olivia knelt beside him and wrapped her arms around him, holding him together while he fell apart. He clung to her like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing universe, his tears soaking into her shoulder. I can't lose him, he whispered helplessly. You won't, she whispered back, stroking his back gently. You're not alone, Ethan. I'm right here. Hours passed. Olivia stayed by his side, through the fear, through the silence, through every painful second. When the doctor finally announced that his father was stable and out of danger, Ethan let out a breath that sounded like a prayer finally answered. He turned to Olivia, eyes swollen, emotion overflowing. "If you weren't here," he stopped, struggling to speak. "I don't know what I would have done." She smiled faintly. "I told you once, I'd always be there for you." He looked at her then, not as a childhood friend, not as a coworker, but as the girl who had once been his whole world. There was longing in his eyes. Fear, love, regret, everything they tried to bury. His hand rose slowly, shaking slightly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear like he had done 1,000 times before when they were younger. Her heart stopped, the world around them silent and waiting. "Live," he breathed, his voice begging for something forbidden. She closed her eyes, just once, letting herself feel what she wasn't supposed to feel. Just 1 second where the universe allowed them to be the version of themselves that life never let exist. But then reality pulled her back. She stepped away, breaking the moment before it broke them. "We should go home," she whispered. Ethan froze, disappointment and pain flickering in his gaze, but he nodded. He drove her home in silence. When she reached her building, she paused before stepping out. "Take care of your dad," she said softly. "And, take care of your heart too." Ethan opened his mouth, wanting to say something, anything, but fear sealed his lips. She closed the door gently. And as he watched her walk away through the rain-soaked street, he realized something he couldn't ignore anymore. He was in love with Olivia. He had always been in love with her. And hiding it was hurting everyone, especially Mia. Later that night, Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of a choice he knew he couldn't avoid forever. The past had returned. The heart he tried to bury was beating again. And someone he cared about was going to be hurt, no matter what he chose. Days passed painfully slow after the night at the hospital. Ethan tried to keep distance, but every time he saw Olivia, her smile a little tired, her eyes a little sad, he felt something tighten in his chest. Olivia tried harder than him. She avoided meeting his gaze for too long, avoided any closeness that could betray what they were both feeling. But love is stubborn. It keeps breathing even when you try to suffocate it. One Friday evening, the company arranged a dinner party at a rooftop restaurant. Music, laughter, fairy lights, everything looked beautiful, yet Olivia felt out of place the moment she arrived. Ethan and Mia walked in together, fingers intertwined, looking perfect. The sight stabbed Olivia's heart with silent agony. Mia greeted Olivia warmly, completely unaware of the earthquake happening in front of her. Ethan looked at Olivia once, a look that stayed too long, held too much, and quickly looked away, swallowing his guilt. As the night went on, Mia excused herself to greet someone she knew across the rooftop. Ethan stood alone near the railing, staring out into the city, his shoulders heavy with the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. Olivia tried to walk past him, to escape the gravity that pulled her toward him every time she was near, but he gently caught her wrist. She froze. "We can't keep pretending," he murmured, voice trembling. Olivia didn't turn, afraid of what might spill from her eyes. "I'm trying to," she said, barely audible. "But you keep pulling me back." Ethan let out a shaky breath. "Because I'm losing my mind, Liv. I'm trying so hard to be the good guy. To choose the right thing. But every time I look at you, I remember the boy I was, the dreams I had, the promises we made." "Promises we broke," she interrupted, a tear slipping down her cheek. He stepped closer, removing the distance carefully, like approaching something fragile. "I never broke my promise. You're the one thing I never stopped wanting." Olivia turned to him then, eyes red, lips trembling, heart aching. "You're engaged, Ethan. She loves you. And you promised her a forever." He shook his head, desperate. "But my heart. Your heart doesn't get to decide alone anymore," she whispered painfully. "Because someone else is holding a part of it now." Ethan bit his lip, eyes glazing with tears. "I don't want to hurt her. And you will," Olivia said. "No matter what choice you make." He closed his eyes. He knew she was right. The music played softly behind them, but silence swallowed them whole. Ethan released her wrist like it burned him to hold on. "We can't keep doing this," she said. "It's not fair to anyone." He wanted to argue, beg, hold her, kiss her, anything. But he didn't. Because he knew the next move would destroy someone innocent. Olivia walked past him, But before she left, she whispered the hardest truth she had ever spoken. If we were meant to be, Ethan, life wouldn't make us choose. She left the party early. She couldn't stay and watch the love she wanted belong to someone else. Mia returned minutes later, finding Ethan alone, face tight with pain. She touched his arm gently. "What's wrong?" she asked, concern filling her voice. Ethan looked at her, really looked, and the guilt became unbearable. He couldn't marry her while loving someone else. He couldn't lie to a woman who trusted him with everything. "We need to talk," he said softly. Mia's eyes widened with fear. She already sensed the storm in his voice. They walked to a quiet corner. Ethan confessed everything, how Olivia's return changed him, how feelings he thought were gone had resurfaced, how confused and broken he felt. He didn't blame Olivia. He didn't blame Mia. He blamed himself. Mia listened, tears streaming silently. She asked one question, a question that sliced through both of them. "If she hadn't come back, would you still choose me?" Ethan stared at her. His silence was the answer. Mia sobbed, not because she hated him, but because she loved him too much to be someone's second choice. She took off the ring with shaking fingers and placed it in his palm. "I deserve someone who can look at me the way you look at her." And with that, she walked away, heartbroken, but free from a love that wasn't fully hers. Ethan stayed there for a long time, ring clutched tightly in his fist, letting the weight of his decision settle. He didn't feel relief. He felt grief, for Mia, for the pain he caused, for time that couldn't be reversed. Then he realized something important. He might have lost Mia. But he hadn't yet chosen Olivia. And love doesn't wait forever. He rushed out of the restaurant, heart pounding. Meanwhile, Olivia stood on her small balcony, watching the city lights blur through her tears. She had tried so hard to be strong. To walk away when love begged her to stay. But God, she was tired of being brave. Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "I'm not engaged anymore." Her breath caught. Then another. "I choose you." Her tears fell faster, not from heartbreak this time, but from the fear and hope tangled inside her. A knock at the door. Olivia rushed to open it. Ethan stood there, soaked from sudden rain, chest rising and falling rapidly, like he'd run through the whole city just to get to her. For a moment, neither moved. Then Ethan stepped forward and cupped her face gently, thumbs wiping the tears that kept coming. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For not finding you sooner. For not fighting harder. For letting you go when I should have held on." Olivia's lips trembled. "Are you sure?" He nodded, eyes burning with certainty. "I loved you yesterday. I love you today. And I know, no matter how messy the world gets, I will love you tomorrow." The dam inside her finally broke. She threw her arms around him, holding him with all the strength of every year she spent missing him. Ethan buried his face in her hair, breathing. Like he had finally found home after years of wandering lost. When they kissed, it wasn't the beginning of a love story, it was the continuation of one that fate paused for a while. They didn't promise forever. They didn't pretend it would be easy. They just held each other, knowing love had returned, not perfect, not convenient, but real. And this time, they weren't going to let go.